if anybody else comes on, but pretty much that's the agenda. So we just went over the agenda. So, but
we're about 7:06 right now, so we'll go ahead and we'll get Herb started. I know that with ranked choice voting, we've had a lot of members keep, this has been a very popular topic that keeps being brought up. So definitely excited to have Herb on and, definitely representing Voters' Choice New Jersey. So we're definitely looking forward to teaming up with them as well. And so we'll turn it over to Herb now for his presentation.
Herb.
Okay, great. Thank you guys, folks. It's good that, thank you for inviting me here. Happy to be here with you guys. I see some familiar faces and some new faces, so that's good. As Kate said and Andrea said, I'm here representing Voter Choice New Jersey. We're nonpartisan, nonprofit. We're dedicated to electoral reforms to increase the range of choice on the ballot and produce fairer outcomes for all. We're here because our elections are broken or they're fixed, depending on who you ask. And, we have an opportunity to correct this with a completely nonpartisan solution that we hope all parties and independents can get behind. Political polarization is a defining feature of American politics today. Conservatives, liberals, progressives agree there's a growing gap between political parties. And now in a democracy, we may not always get what we want, but we at least want the system to be fair. All right, so let me just turn on the presentation here and share my screen. Where am I? Okay. So as I said, we're Voter Choice New Jersey. We're taking a team-based approach to this project. We have a bunch of great volunteers who have joined us, and one thing that we've done is create this very nice logo here that we're very proud of. In any case, so what is the problem with our current voting system? The current problem, there's something, it's called plurality voting. Plurality means you can win with less than 50% of the vote. It just means whoever has the most votes win. And so someone can be elected without the majority, right? And so one's example of this could be an election that looks like this, where candidate A only gets 40% of the vote, but yet candidate A would be elected even though 60% of the folks voted against that candidate. And that's called a plurality. Another thing that's wrong with the plurality system when you can only choose one person is that you can only choose one person and you don't get to express your opinion or your preference about other candidates. For instance, you might have liked Cory Booker and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and you're forced to pick just one of them when you cast your vote. So that's a problem. Right, we believe that's a problem because it forces you to choose one candidate. And like, here's another example. Like in the rest of life, we don't have to choose one thing. We get to have preferences. We have preferences that we can put in order, right? So here's something that one of the other problems with our current election system is what's known as the spoiler effect, and we're all painfully familiar with the 2000 presidential election in Florida, where George Bush and Al Gore were essentially tied. Bush had a 537 vote lead, but Ralph Nader was also in the race, and he got 1.64% of the vote, right? And that was actually 97,000 votes, which is way more than the 537 that separated George Bush and Al Gore. And from exit polling, it was determined that Bush would have gotten about a quarter of those votes, and Al Gore would have gotten about half of those votes. And that would have then given the state of Florida to Al Gore and the presidency to Al Gore, right? But yet Ralph Nader is in the race. He's exercising his constitutional right to be in a race, yet he gets called the spoiler. And no one wants to be the spoiler. No one wants to be called a spoiler, at least. And even more importantly, one thing that we know is that the major parties don't want their elections spoiled. And we think that that's going to be one of the unifying themes going forward, that no one likes elections to be spoiled, whether you're on the winning side, losing side, or the spoiler. It's not restricted to putting Republicans in office. In 1992 general election, we had Bill Clinton and George Bush running, and Ross Perot was in that race. Ross Perot was more similar to George Bush, and he got 19% of the vote. Bill Clinton ended up winning again without a majority of the support of the people, with only 43% of the vote. We saw that again this year in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary. We had almost 24 or more than 24 folks running in the Democratic primary. And again, you can only choose one, right? So then it becomes a question of, do you vote for your number one choice, or do you vote for a front runner? Somebody like Joe Biden in this case became a front runner, and becoming a front runner in the primary process becomes very important. And then folks are basically we're all forced to choose between supporting a front runner to make that candidate look stronger, or we feel sort of disincented to vote for our first choice, or even and no ability to rank these folks and say, these three people are all acceptable to me, and so on and so forth. And so we end up with the lesser of two evils, as displayed on this screen, this slide. So what is the solution? We believe the solution is ranked choice voting. With ranked choice voting, you get to rank your candidates in order. Your preference is not limited. Your voice is not limited to just one candidate. You can express your opinion on all the candidates on the ballot. You're not obligated to. You can vote for one or two or all the candidates, and you put them in order as is shown on the screen here. So let's look at this example that we have with the election we just showed. Under plurality voting, the largest share actually wins the election with 40%, right? With ranked choice voting, the majority of votes, no one has the majority of votes. Everyone has less than 50% of the vote. So there's no winner declared at this point in a ranked choice voting election. So how do we determine who wins in RCV, a ranked choice voting election? So when we count only the first choice votes. Here, this is a different example. These are different numbers. If in the first round someone does get over 50%, they are declared the winner, and then there's no need to go to the second choices of any of the ballots. So in this case, 55% wins the election. Ranked choice voting has no bearing on the election. The majority in the first round may win, right? But going back to our example that we used earlier, where candidate A has 40%, candidate B has 35, C 20, D 5, there's no majority in the first round. So how do we proceed with the counting of this? Well, candidate D with 5% is eliminated from consideration. And the folks who voted for candidate D as their first choice, their votes get transferred. Another name for this is single transferable vote. Their votes get transferred to other candidates who are listed as their second choice. So even though candidate D is now out of the race, the voters are still involved. And I think that's a key distinction. The candidate is out, voters are still involved in the election. And in this case, we see 4% went to candidate A, bumped them to 44%, candidate B, 1%, and still no one has a majority. So we repeat the process, eliminate candidate C at 20%, and we show 1% go into candidate A for a total of 45, and 19% go into candidate B for 55%. So this is a majority in the third round. So this example, what this is meant to show is that even though the orange faction candidate had the most support in the first round, in actuality, sort of the purple faction candidates had more support overall. And so it shows how a ranked choice voting election will then allow the will of the people to be expressed more accurately, in that more folks supported purple candidates than supported orange candidates in this case. And so that's who got elected. So RCV is a practical solution. It promotes majority support. It eliminates the spoiler effect and vote splitting, and it lessens the importance of wasted votes and strategic voting. And one of the major impacts of ranked choice voting is that there's increased campaign civility. And the reason for that is that if you're in an election with 3 or 4 candidates, you're incented to try and gain the support of other candidates' supporters. Because if other candidates are eliminated from the race, you want to be their second choice. So the idea of just having to be better than the other person, and which then leads to all the negative campaigning, that goes away. So another impact of RCV, which one thing that we can all basically get behind, is that we believe, and we've seen it in places, that there's campaign civility. Okay. RCV, another RCV impact is that there's better representation for women and people of color. Here's some data that was put together for city council. This is in California, I believe. Before RCV on the city council, the women representation was 23%. And after RCV, it went up to 49%. And a similar result for people of color in the municipal elections, 41% before RCV and 60% RCV. So this is something else that RCV does, is that since it takes away sort of this primacy effect, this idea that the front runner or the safe bet is someone that you should vote for, it allows basically other folks to get involved rather than the candidates that we've had historically in our elections. So where is RCV used currently in the United States? In Maine, it's used statewide. You may be familiar with that. It was used back a couple of years ago, and it was used again in this last election. And there's 20 cities in New York, some really big cities, including New York City, which is going to be using it in May to vote for mayor and council. So this is not a new fad. This is something that's been in place and is working, and people who have it basically enjoy the benefits of ranked choice voting. It's also used around the world in places like Australia and Ireland. It's been used for over 100 years. And again, these folks would never go back to a single plurality voting system. So basically, again, I'm here representing Voter Choice New Jersey. We formed our organization under the guidance of the folks who organized the Massachusetts effort. Unfortunately, the ballot measure failed in Massachusetts, and there have been some, post-mortem done on that. But the folks built a massive organization. They raised over $10 million. So we're building our organization with coaching from the folks who founded the Voter Choice Massachusetts. And so what can you do to help us as the movement for a People's Party, or as individuals, is that you could sign up as a Voter Choice New Jersey volunteer or supporter. Of course, you can always like and share things on Facebook, or make calls, to activate our support. It's just a basic general organizing. We're working to organize just like the folks, like we're doing here in the Movement for a People's Party. It's all about grassroots organizing and building a big team of people. And here, of course, we always have to ask for money. That's unfortunate truth today. And so we just have some things here as examples. So I saw some folks asking some questions in the chat. I don't know, Kate and Andrea, did you want to spend some time answering questions, or anyone else have anything?
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions, write stack into the chat and we'll be able to go down the line from there. I know we had some, just talk more of a discussion in the chat, but if anybody has any questions.
I see Joyce mentioning that. Yes. So in Massachusetts, they had what's called initiative and referendum, where citizens can put questions on a statewide ballot. We don't have that in New Jersey. So right now we require legislative action in order to enable ranked choice voting in New Jersey. I see here, Andrea talked about RCV can encourage higher turnout. That's true. RCV can also save money in that some jurisdictions currently have runoff elections. I know Perth Amboy just had a runoff election for their mayoral race. And so there's an expense there. And then there was actually lower turnout in the runoff election. So this can all be done in one election. The method of voting is called ranked choice voting. The method of counting the votes is called instant runoff voting. It's because you're essentially doing a runoff election within the context of one election. Okay, let me see. Is there any other questions? Does anyone else have any questions?
We have some people lining up for stack right now. Okay. William Olson, you're first.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Herb. I've
Sure.
been reading about these various voting methods for only about 3 weeks,
Mhm.
but it seems to me that the one we have sucks. The 3 alternatives, approval, star, and ranked choice voting, all have different kinds of successes and strengths and weaknesses. There are places that overturn ranked choice voting. I can't remember all the reasons why. I just think that it's certainly an improvement. There may be costs for voting machines and software, and I think it would be reasonable to present it as a better way. Is it the best way for all issues? Probably not, but better than what we have. Its tractability, I mean, in terms of its, knownness in this country is more significant than approval or star.
Go.
Well,
Get out of here.
so anyway, just a brief comment. The stuff gets awfully complicated
You're
for
bad.
different metrics.
Yeah,
Go.
you're right, Bill. The approval voting is something that some jurisdictions, I think North Dakota, I think we have approval voting, and maybe St. Louis. And the Center for Election Science is actually behind approval voting. And what that is for folks is that it's just basically a checkbox. There'll be a bunch of candidates. Instead of ranking them 1, 2, 3, you just check the ones that you approve of. Part of the research behind that says that that's very good in a multi-member districts, whereas in a single member district like we currently have in Jersey, ranked choice voting may be more effective. And you're right about ranked choice voting being more well known. And right now, any change that we can make to our voting system is going to be an improvement, as we've seen with the primaries here in Jersey, with the county line and the spoiler effect in the general election, and the inability for third parties to get any traction, or any other parties. I mean, it's just that, again, another aside, in 1920 was the last time there was a major change to our electoral system. And that's when they made it really hard for third parties to basically get blessed as an official party. And it was also the same year that women were given the right to vote, which I find is very curious, because the same year that women got the right to vote, they made it harder to organize a party. So I'm not sure that there's cause and effect there, but it doesn't look good, if you know what I mean.
Thanks, Herb. Next, we have Donald Leach, a question.
Yeah, if you could explain how ranked choice voting affects gerrymandering. I think that's a really interesting point.
Well, in some ways, the two are not related, except that the idea that if we have ranked choice voting over time, we'll get more democratic representation, and we'll have less of an influence of special interests. So the effect on redistricting will probably be delayed to some effect. Like we're doing redistricting now. If we could get ranked choice voting installed in a couple of years, then by the time it's time to do the redistricting again, we would hope that the folks who have the power to do the redistricting would be less influenced by special interests, and which is what causes the gerrymandering to a great extent. Does that make sense, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's also if the districts get larger, the effect of gerrymandering will be largely diluted by the ranked choice voting.
What do you mean, just with population increases? Or
if districts were merged together to make like a super district, and
with multiple seats, yes.
Yeah, with multiple
Right.
seats, then
Right.
Voting would be much more in line with what the voters actually want.
That's right. And there's a thing called proportional RCV, and in general, on the academic side, they talk about preferential or proportional voting as like a general classes of changes to our voting system. And so, like what you're saying, Don, is right. And a lot of people believe we should go to multi-member districts. So what that would look like would be, instead of having 40 assembly districts, we might have, with 2 people each, we might have 10 districts with like 8 people each in them, which would give more people, more parties the opportunity to potentially get enough support to get a seat in a legislature.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Sure.
Our next question is from M.W. Epstein.
You could just read it if they don't want to speak.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. With multi-member
Sorry,
districts.
sorry, my mic was muted. I thought I'd unmuted it, but anyway, I had a question about the relationship between ranked choice voting and proportional representation, because I grew up in Europe, and virtually all countries in Western Europe have proportional representation. And to me, it seems, now I've lived here several decades, that the duopoly, as Nader correctly calls it, you sort of have a vicious cycle whereby they already accumulate all the power, and then with gerrymandering and everything else, they make sure to entrench that there aren't any other possibilities. But the ranked choice voting seemed to me, it's directed at the individual candidates, but it doesn't necessarily change the balance of representation and power in terms of parties. And I mean, yes, it does, but I think proportional representation would be more democratic and also representing the parties better without excluding them, on the basis of a duopolistic or winner takes all system.
Yeah, I agree with you. Proportional representation would be a further upgrade to our system. We're looking at ranked choice voting as something that has some traction. It is pretty simple. People know how to make choices. Proportional representation, or which can be done with or without RCV, is definitely more democratic, and it's used more in parliamentary systems, but we could also implement it here. So we agree that our system is flawed, as we all know, and all these innovations, any of them would help us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe you're next for Stack.
Yeah, so I really had more of a comment than a question. So like with the proportional representation, we have to get in the game before we can change the game. And so, to me, ranked choice voting helps us get in the game, just like, helps a third party, which is why I like ranked choice voting, because, the Greens have had a problem all these years because a lot of people would have voted for them if they weren't voting for the lesser of two evils. And so this way they can still have their first choice be the third party, the Green Party or the new major party, People's Party, be their first choice, and then have that lesser of two evil as their second choice. And, more people would vote, I think would be willing to vote that way, come out and vote who normally don't vote. And I think they would also vote their conscience with ranked choice voting as opposed to the lesser of two evils. And then once we get in there and we change all the attorney generals across the nation, we can fix the gerrymandering, but that's going to take years, because they're not going to let you fix what's broken when it's working for them, So
yeah, that's a good point also, Kate. And one of the things I like about ranked choice voting is that I think of it as a better thermometer to take the temperature of the electorate, because you have a lot of people out there who would support Green Party or other parties who don't feel comfortable expressing that in the voting booth. So we're not really getting that information out of the electorate. Whereas if people could, even if they put the Green Party as a second choice, we would still have that data that shows that there's a certain number of people who would support the Green Party or just aren't totally, against, particular parties. That's another thing that approval voting helps with as well.
Yeah.
I don't like approval voting because everybody gets the same, from what I understood from the presentation I watched a couple weeks ago that MPP was doing, is that it looked like everybody got the same. There wasn't a rank. There was everybody, if you were voting for A, B, and C, they all got A, B, and C got the equal, it wasn't I wanted B first and then C and then maybe A. It was everybody got everything, and you could vote for everybody, and then that doesn't work for me. But yeah, so
and there's also systems where like you get like a certain sort of bulk, you get like 100% of votes, and you can divvy them up to different places, folks, like give somebody 100 or 80 and 20, but that makes it a little more complicated, obviously. So RCV is pretty simple.
Okay, so Andrea lost the stack. So next is it's MW Epstein again? You have another question?
No, I'm sorry. No, I misunderstood the stack procedure,
Okay.
so I hadn't entered stack the first time. But no, I would definitely want other people to. And thanks for your question. I mean, I think that was a very good point. The entry, using RCV as a sort of entry strategy. Thanks.
Okay. So then next would be Brian. Brian Etchen. I'm sorry, I'm from the Midwest. I murder names every day.
It looks like
What I
Brian's
do.
he's trying to talk, but it looks like we can't hear him.
No.
Yeah,
Maybe also
my
muted
question,
the microphone.
Okay.
I guess this one doesn't work. My question was on the nature of the resistance to RCV. Do you think that there is any sort of substantial portion of the population that actually would prefer our current system, or do you think it more has to do with the fact that special interests are the only ones that inform them on these kinds of issues?
I think it's probably both. Obviously, there's special interests connected to the political parties, especially, that are going to want to maintain the status quo. And some of the things that they bring up, like it's too complicated or it's too expensive, are just basically false. But, you know, as we see, like in Jersey, especially in our primary elections, a lot of people are comfortable with the status quo. They trust the status quo. So there is potentially resistance both from special interests and a certain amount of, I guess it's more like inertia of the voting, you know, electorate. And that's where, you know, our group, basically, we're formed mostly as like an education group. We're here to educate folks on ranked choice voting. We're a nonprofit 501c3. You know, we don't engage in any kind of, you know, political activity. So, but, you know, that's our job. That's our job. If anyone who supports RCV, it's your job to talk it up, basically, and promote it.
Thank you.
That's why we invited Herb here to speak, because this is important. This is definitely something that can benefit, well, the People's Party, but everybody, because, you know, the current system is just so, it's wrong, especially in New Jersey, between the line and don't get me started. So that's the last of what's on stack. Does anybody else have any questions for Herb? Non-voters are critics of the status quo.
Well,
So
well, right, that's what, yes, you know, if we increase voter turnout, people who don't vote now will start voting.
absolutely.
And, you know, that's important, obviously.
Yeah, I think that it would get more people involved for sure.
So, okay, there's no other question. Let's see. Yeah, okay, that leads, we're Voter Choice New Jersey. Our website is voterchoicenj.org. You can go there and sign up as a supporter or volunteer or a donor. We have a monthly strategy meeting, a statewide monthly strategy meeting. We've gotten up to as high as 70 people attending those meetings. Our next meeting is on February 21st, Sunday at 6:30. So everyone's free to come. It's and we have, like I said, we have a team-based approach. And in our statewide strategy meeting, we break out into our teams where folks are doing actual work, like social media. We have messaging. We have a great group of folks doing messaging, arts and video. You know, I'm really happy. I mean, we have a great group of people. I couldn't be happier with the folks that we're attracting. To see some of their faces on this call, actually. So all good people. So
I joined their last meeting and Herb tried to put me to work. I was like, well, I don't have no more time. he threw me in a group. I was like, no. But if you have time and want to get involved, well, first they explain more about it. But even if you want to do presentations for them, you know, they have a training for that. And but they really have a nice group of people, and they have 5 or 6 people in each group, and they're doing a great job. Mm-hmm. See, there's a couple more comments.
Yeah, I see one about, yeah, that's a big issue that we're trying to figure out. I've actually gone on Facebook. A question is, do you think most of your supporters are registered Democrats? And the answer right now is yes, and that's not good. I've actually, quote, infiltrated some some conservative groups on Facebook to try and promote the meeting. And because we're nonpartisan, and, you know, I really started out as an independent. I did run in a Democratic primary for county clerk in Middlesex County, but I do consider myself an independent. And we really need to be nonpartisan and we need more support. We need a broad spectrum of support. And on the right of the spectrum, people do look at this as like a progressive issue. So that's something that we need to work on and overcome. And in fact, the reason the postmortem in Massachusetts was that the messaging to the conservatives was not powerful enough, and that's why the ballot issue did not pass in Massachusetts.
Thanks, Herb. I really appreciate all that. That was definitely, you know, a wonderful presentation that you guys have put together. It really breaks it down to for everybody to understand exactly what it is, and there are more options out there. As we're starting moving along on the hour, Kate, should we move over? I'm excited to hear about about the podcast. So should we turn over to Ray? Ray, good now?
Sure. Just let me say, I did put Herb's website for Voter Choice New Jersey in the chat, and also the @RCV4NJ is the Facebook group if you want to check that out also. But yes, Ray. Time for Ray. Thank you, Herb.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Herb. Thanks.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ray Riga. I am, as Kate said, I'm in the National Movement for a People's Party Tech and Data group, and I'm in the coding and development circle there. But more interestingly, possibly, is that I am just became the coordinator of a new circle in the National Media and Messaging group, which is the marketing circle. So we're just going to be building that out on the national level. So I'm very excited about that. So that kind of brings me to talk about these subjects, which are having to do with our multimedia kind of video, audio, our strategy with that for how we present what I would call our first party media that we produce, right? So like when we're talking about podcasts, that can mean different things. What I'm going to be talking about today are first party generated podcasts. So when we, like on the national level, we have our national call every 2 weeks now. We take that national call, and then I'm currently the podcast producer. So I will take that, convert that to an MP3 audio file that's appropriate for an audio podcast. And then we upload that to a pretty cool service called Anchor. That's the service that we're currently using. That's a podcast syndication service. So that will take that audio file and then make that available to many different podcast clients. Some people listen to podcasts via their iPhone, and there's an Apple Podcasts app on that. Others will listen to it via this service called Spotify that you may have heard of. That's also for listening to music in the cloud. And it goes on and on. Our Anchor actually syndicates to 7 or 8 different platforms like that. And that way, and then it kind of pulls back in all of what we know, how many listens we've had for podcast listens, for example, across all those platforms. So that is an idea that I think we should start considering on our level for things like this very call. So when I say doing a New Jersey Movement for a People's Party podcast, there could also be sort of bespoke events that are not our state monthly calls or whatever it is, where it's just a podcast. We could do that too. But the idea to start it is to take the content that starts out as a live stream or a Zoom meeting and make that available on demand in different kinds of formats for people. When I say on demand, I mean, like you click on a YouTube video and you can watch it whenever you want. So that's the first thing, is thinking about those podcasts and podcast syndication. The second thing I'm going to talk about, 3 very, very closely related things. The second thing is live stream video syndication. So what we do on the national level, when we have our national calls, those take place as a Zoom call in the same format as this. But we use another syndication platform to in real time send this Zoom call out to YouTube Live, to Facebook Live, to Periscope, to Twitch, to all, you may not have heard of all these, but to many, many different platforms where people go to enjoy live streaming events. So that's another thing that I think that we're getting to a point with our New Jersey hub that we should start thinking about possibly, simulcasting our Zoom calls to these other platforms in a similar way. Because right now, we've just started putting these monthly calls on YouTube as well. So if you go look on YouTube for New Jersey Movement for a People's Party, you can watch our last 2 state calls there. And we'll continue doing that. But right now, that's a manual process. So using this kind of syndication tool, it would be, not only would it be there happening live at the same time we're having it for all people that use all those different platforms, but it would also become available on demand automatically after the call. So that's 2. And then the third thing is about, very, very similarly, about what we might call videography. Video editing, taking the state call and just making a clip of Herb's presentation on ranked choice voting, and then giving that then we can upload that to YouTube, and then maybe if we want to, for example, a term that I would like to see us using for that I think is pretty relatively uncomplicated is post-production. So we want to maybe have some people that can do some of this post-production to do clips of our videos as well. So those are the 3 things: podcast syndication, live stream syndication, and post-production. And if we do see fit to start doing this kind of work in our state hub, I think it might make sense to create a circle within our hub for this kind of activity. Now, the funny thing is, I'll mention I'm also in the Creative Arts Working Group in the national movement. And aspects of these 3 topics are kind of like, it's kind of hard to figure out where to put them. There's like a creative arts aspect, there is a media and messaging aspect, there's a tech aspect. So to me, like right now in the national, we kind of picked it for various reasons, decided to put this there and that there. I don't think we need to import that here. I think we should create one circle that it would all be under the same umbrella. And maybe we'll call that the Creative Arts Circle. I don't see any reason not to. If anyone wants to call it another thing, we can figure that out perhaps in our Slack. We can have a little conversation about it, or right now in the chat if anyone has any thoughts. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I wanted to say. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, that's pretty awesome, Ray. That sounds great. I have no video experience. I mean, I can video something on my phone. So what we're looking for, though, what Ray was hoping is that I know in our last monthly call, we had a couple of people in who are members of MPP and who have video experience. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to watch the other video because I don't think they are here today. But we are looking for people with video experience that might be interested in doing that. Ray is in New Jersey, so we have a special connection to Ray. And actually, Ray's been great with posting our YouTube, our calls on YouTube for us. And he's a very patient person. I love it because he has to walk me through some stuff just to get him access. So, if that sounds good to anybody, or if anybody has questions for Ray, or if you think you might be interested in being a part of that circle in our hub, we'd love to hear from you. So I see there's a couple questions in the chat, Ray. I could maybe help post-production. I don't have a ton of experience, but cutting and uploading video is pretty straightforward. Okay, that's Brian. Nice, Brian, thank you. And
I think, did you want to elaborate more on your question in the chat?
Brian?
I'm going to unmute. Yeah, one was just because I think Ray had asked for possible titles, and I thought creative arts was great, but maybe you could just add communication. It's still very short. I mean, relatively short. And then I was about to add something. I would be interested in joining, but I'm sort of in partial unemployment and sort of looking, trying to get as much income as I can. But I am hopefully in the next couple of months going to apply for Social Security. So I'm hoping then I would have more, spare time. So I would like to, consider that maybe in a couple of, a little bit down the road when my life is a little bit less affected by COVID and partial unemployment and everything.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Yeah, well, definitely. And just so you know, this is not like open enrollment for your health insurance. Like, you don't have to join now or never. Like, you can come knocking on our door. I hope very soon when you're able to get those kinds of things in order.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
MW, what's your first name? Do I know you? I feel like I know you.
Well, I joined the first, you had your first meeting, and
Okay.
Mark Epstein, and, as I said, I'm sort of in not the best of circumstances. So one of the reasons I blacked out my video is because I'm in the basement. I don't have any heat or hot water, so I'm a little bit of a sort of not the best living circumstances. So I'm hopefully it's not that I want to hide my face from you or something like that.
No, that's okay. I didn't want to call you MW.
No, it's Mark, and my middle initial is W. So yeah.
That's okay. Okay, so are you in? Have you signed up with National as a volunteer?
I believe I have, but I still, Andrea was very good at sending us some links after the first meeting, but I've been remiss in going and joining some of the New Jersey. So yeah, I'm definitely planning to do that. But again, it's sort of not having time always to catch up with everything.
Okay, well, we'll watch for you. It's great. It's great that you will consider that. Thank you.
We also have a question from Missy K. She has her hand up in the.
Okay, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, I think what you were talking about was a really good idea. To be honest, I mean, I try to put this out about Movement for a People's Party, on Facebook and Twitter, and I really don't see much out there. So I think we should be putting out some sort of podcasts. But one of my suggestions is perhaps that we focus more on a particular topic rather than just like this whole meeting, because I've tried to get my sister and some other family members involved, and sometimes they join these meetings and they ultimately end up, well, that's kind of boring. They're talking about a lot of things that they might be interested in joining, but how involved they're going to be, I don't know. And they're not entirely sure what the Movement for a People Party is about. And so I think maybe if we had more clips that more focused on a particular issue, that a person could enjoy that one part and see, oh, okay, hey, that's something I agree with. Now let me go and look and endeavor more into what is the People's Party about, rather than just putting out, our whole meeting. I think we could attract more people.
Yeah, that's a great point, Missy. And that definitely is kind of what we have in mind for that videography or post-production element, where we would just take a clip, not the whole meeting. We would just take some clips and say, here's the piece where we talked about the Green New Deal. Here's the piece where we talked about Medicare for all, etc. Right? And then you can kind of just point someone that you think that might be the hook for them. You can point them to that. And then the other thing I'll quickly say in response is, one thing that we can do about that now is if you go and look at our I think the quickest way is to go look at our podcast homepage for the National. And if you if you let me share the link in our chat right now. Basically, you can go and look at all of our podcasts that we've had since the convention, the 2020 convention. And some of them are pretty specifically topical, like the ones where we had Dr. Peter Kalmas talking about climate change, for example. You might be able to kind of cherry pick a certain podcast that might have more of a focus or more of a relevance to some people that you're trying to whom you're trying to spread the message. So I hope for now that, and also if you do go on our YouTube national YouTube page, there already has been some of this videography and post-production work that's gone on. So there are some clips there. If you look, if you just kind of go to the People's Party page and look at all the videos available there. So that's pretty much what we have for now.
Okay. Hey, and I would love to help and volunteer in any way I can. I tell you, I'm not any expert in a lot of this, but I would be willing to do what I could.
Great. Thank you, Missy. We'll be in touch. I'm happy to, by the way, it seems obvious by now, but I'm happy to help set this circle up for our state hub. So yeah, feel free to contact me. I'm on both of our national and New Jersey state Slack apps. So that's probably the easiest way for us to get in touch right now. Yeah. I'm sure if you just look me up there, Ray Riga, you can find me on our Slack. So please, let's start conversations there, and we'll see what we can get going. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say right now.
Okay.
If no one else has any questions, I think that's a great way for Kate's kind of is going to talk about Slack as well and go over that. So if anybody has been having any issues with that or interested or not sure how to use Slack, she's going to be going over that. So
okay.
Kate, you're muted.
Thank you, Ray. Missy, are you signed up as a volunteer on the webpage?
I have, and you know, I signed the thing for the petition
Community agree
on here. Yeah. And I'd like to do more, but again, I am not that versed in a lot of the computer software.
Yes,
so
sure, that's okay. But did you receive an invite to Slack from National?
From National, I think I did. I know I've had a little bit of, again, I'm not real good at a lot of the tech
so
stuff.
if you want to just I don't know if you know, in the chat here where it says to everyone, there's a little drop down arrow. If you want to write just to me and give me your last name, and I can make sure we can resend you a link to National, because to get into state you have to be in National, and then I can bring you into state. So
one other thing, I'm sorry, Misty, since you're interested in helping specifically with this, I'd be happy to stay on at the end of the call, if you have a few minutes after we stop recording and everyone leaves. We could try to help get you up to speed with that a little more too. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, great. That'd be great.
Great.
Okay.
Are there any more questions for Ray? Or about what the podcast might be about?
How could I go about getting involved in the post-production stuff?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Brian, let's start a conversation on Slack. Can you Slack me?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Well, I had just a comment, because I thought, what Missy said was very important, but I think the two issues that might be most appealing across the board spectrum are, one, the sort of crisis of democracy, which is obviously what the ranked choice voting was largely about too, but then also in terms of media analysis, I'm a big fan of both Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, and I look at their, the people I'm not on social media, I must confess, but I look at, YouTube and so on, the people who follow them, and they seem to have a pretty broad appeal. They're hated, obviously, by entrenched interests and so on, but I do think they're not too niche. They don't appeal just to progressive or left. They do have some appeal to libertarians or conservatives and so on. So I think that would be also a great way to get the movement for the People's Party to have, a sort of, how can I say, a broad and encompassing sort of messaging, which might be interesting. And it connects, both the political and the media coverage together. Hello?
Wait. We are trying to, there are some independent channels that have had us on, Jimmy Dore, like him or not, he has been a supporter of MPP. And there are many interviews out there with Nick Brana on when Nina Turner was with the Real News or Real Progressive News back in 2016. She interviewed Nick, and they actually worked together on starting Our Revolution. But if you search in YouTube Nick Brana's name or Movement for a People's Party, you'll get a lot of not just the 5-hour clip of the convention, but they, Ray's team broke down into sections to the individual people that spoke. A lot of progressive people, including Dr. Cornel West and Chris Hedges, and Nina Turner was there, and Marianne Williamson, Mike Gravel. There's a lot of spots.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Dore has had virtually all of those on. Katie Halper, who does a show with Matt Taibbi called Useful Idiots, has had a lot of them on.
Yeah, we just had
Nina Turner had an interesting interview dialogue on YouTube with Tulsi Gabbard, and there's if you search, there's a ton of interesting stuff. But I'm just saying, in terms of the messaging, it might be if people don't look or know where to look, or they don't know who these people are.
Mark, I just want to share something very exciting with you. We're already making some great connections and partnerships in that very specific space that you're talking about of media personalities right now.
Right.
So Katie Halper and Brianna Joy Gray, if you happen to know her as well, the Bad Faith podcast, they co-hosted our Force the Vote town hall, the Movement for a People's Party National.
Yes,
so
I saw that. That was great. That was great. Absolutely.
I think that shows that we have some.
Yes, no, I agree. But I mean, it's again, Jimmy Dore. One of the first meeting I came to, there were some people who sounded more, I don't know, that they were sort of really bad mouthing. Yes, Jimmy Dore has a temp. Maybe people don't like his style or whatever. But he's a mensch. He really does stick. He has courage to support people, even if you don't like his style. And I think Force the Vote was really something that he pushed. With MPP.
Yeah.
So,
well, it was his idea. I mean, it wasn't our idea. It was his idea. We picked it up to give credit where credit's due.
Mr. Epstein. Jimmy Dore is a match. He's great.
I never heard of him personally until the convention. And so it took me I'm one of those people that at first it didn't resonate with me personally, but especially the Force the Vote, because he also appeared in our Movement for a People's Party Force the Vote town hall. And he told his story about his medical challenges in his life that made him such a passionate advocate for Medicare for all. And that totally made me understand where his righteous anger and where his passion comes from.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what did it for me too, listening to that, what you just described.
Yeah.
Very
So good points. Totally.
Very good comments. Yes, thanks.
See, Jay Bernstein had asked, how do I connect with the PA chapter? Are you talking about specifically on Slack?
I'm really not familiar with Slack, but I live near Philadelphia. I'm originally from New Jersey. I lived in northern New Jersey for 48 years, but I'm now here in PA. So I just was wondering, is there a PA chapter that I could connect with?
There are. Are you signed up? Did you sign up on the national page yet?
No, not yet. This is my first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you want to do, I'll type the website in for the peoplesparty.org/volunteer, and there'll be a short questionnaire when you go there about, which includes what state are you in, and so when you sign up, they will put you into the Pennsylvania Action Network group, and somebody should reach out. You'll get the invitation to Slack, but somebody to onboard you if you want to be a volunteer in any way will give you a call and find out what your interests are, what you'd like to be involved with or whatever. But once you're in the national, what everybody should do when you're in Slack is put your state initials after your name. And that's how, like, I have found people that way who are floating around national, not sure where to go, and they had their initials there, or they mentioned that they're from New Jersey. So I direct messaged them and said, you know, I can get you into the state Slack. If you give me your email address, we'll bring you over, because they're two separate workspaces. So,
Okay.
and,
Yeah,
and so,
send that to me. I appreciate it. And
well,
I
it's
see
very,
Mr. Olson is from East Orange, New Jersey. I actually am from Irvington originally, so
Huh.
pretty close by.
Nice. Nice. I'm in Essex County myself. And I
Yeah.
will say, you know, we'll point you to the PA chapter, but we might need you for some direct action in Trenton one day too. So we reserve
Yeah.
that call on you.
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, as a hub coordinator, you know, I've connected with the New York City hub coordinator, because I'm 30 minutes from New York City, and I do a lot of activism in New York City. So, you know, the regional coordinators are connecting the coordinators from the states, you know, that are close to each other, because we could help each other, you know, and definitely. So
Yeah.
there it is. I just posted in the chat there to not to everybody. I don't know why, you know, but here, let's try again. Paste, copy and paste, and enter. And so it is a minute or two after 8. And if anybody still wants to learn about Slack, I can go through that presentation pretty quickly so that you can see what happens when you do get your invite into Slack and how to move
We did
around
have a
there.
question about what is Slack and stuff like that, so we can just go over that real quickly, and we'll try to wrap this up as not too late past the hour.
But if you still have a question for Ray, otherwise we can hang around for afterwards. Ray said that he would hang in there with us. So, okay, so you have signed up to volunteer with MPP, and you sign the community agreements, and so you then receive from National an invitation to Slack. So I'm going to actually, so when this is what Slack looks like on the web browser. This is not the apps. Okay, so this is like here, I've put in slack.com and it brought me here. So when you click on this drop-down menu, you get whatever Slack workspaces you're in. So the People's Party National has the white logo there, and the state would have the black if you're in the state. But so you're going to put in the People's Party at slack.com. You're going to use the email address that you signed up with National to get into Slack. And then once you're in Slack, once you've clicked on the People's Party, the National, the white, which is what will show for you, I'm in the state, so both show for me. So once you're in there, it'll bring you to this first page. So this first page, I'm going to hide this over here so we can see. So this first page will list, these are like general things that are there, threads, direct messages, if there's a mention or something, whatever, but this is where we list the channels. So channels are the start here, we'll list like where all the organizers are and stuff. It's a read-only channel. It tells you who your regional organizer is. If you're having trouble getting around or can't find your people, you can contact your regional organizer, and it lists what states they cover. And anything with a hashtag in front of it is called an open channel. So that means it's there all the time and anybody can see it, and you can go in it. And so you can see there's announcements, there's workspace notices, talking about the convention. When the convention was going on, there was a lot of convention talk, care and support, you know, if you're overtaxed. Uh-oh. Do I have something running? I'm sorry. Apologize for that. If your message, if one of the channels is brighter like that, lit up, it means there's messages in there that you haven't read yet. And once you've read them, then it'll go dark like that again, or dull, whatever. The locked channels like this is, so I'm in the media messaging group, and it's a locked channel, so you would have to contact the organizer to become a part of that. So if you wanted to be a part of media messaging for national, where like I do the Facebook posting and I do some Twitter posting to help promote MPP. So that's why these locked channels show for me. And again, this one is lit up, which means there was a message that's not read in there that I would want to read. So open, locked, direct messages are listed below. A Slackbot likes to send you little messages every now and then. And so if something's in there, it'll be lit up, then you are underneath it. And then, so I had clicked on that, so that's why it's blue. And then, so it's telling me, check out this channel, check out that, whatever. I have enough. So, but anybody you've had a direct message with will be listed below there. So, where you want to go though when you go in is go to the welcome channel, and then and type who you are, put your state name after you, and I'll show you how to do that. So the next slide here shows you, so at the top of this page, if I didn't cut it off, it would have, it looks like this on this side, and this is your profile. So you would click on a little icon, which I had to upload a picture, but it might have your initials there, right there. But when you click on that, it gives you the drop down menu and it says edit profile. So then when you go in there, so, oh, I also wanted to tell you, so at the bottom, if you wanted to write notes to yourself, and I typed this in here, type notes to yourself here. So if you wanted to remind yourself of something, you could put your notes here. Like lots of times they post like Zoom trainings in like announcements or workspaces, and for like 2 days down the road, and then I put a note in my calendar, on my phone. Oh, I have a Zoom meeting at 2 o'clock, but I can't remember where it was posted. So you might want to type in here, Tuesday's Zoom channel the link is posted in announcements or whatever. So you can put organizing notes in there, or anything you might want to bring up at a meeting. You can put a note in there for yourself. So after that, when we get to edit profile, so this is where I could edit my profile. You want to put your full name in here as you have it when you signed up. And then here's your display name. So as you can see, I have New Jersey after my name, and then coordinator, so that people, if people are looking for the New Jersey coordinator, that's how I appear everywhere in Slack. And what do? I organize for New Jersey People's Party, and I'm in the social media working group. I didn't give my phone number to the world. And then the time zone is good. And anybody can click on your profile and see like this kind of stuff. And you can upload an image here for yourself, or you can remove your photo and just have initials. So, and then when you're done editing, you just click your save your changes, and then you'll have your picture, your name, your initials, and you're good to go there. So then after that, so as I said, you want to go to the Start Here channel. So again, this is the channels on the left, and this will show you, this is what is always pinned here. You can see it says it's pinned up here by the regional coordinator, Todd, and it has links to like the organizational structure, the community agreements and Slack guidelines, because we want to treat everybody with respect and not be disruptive and cause problems. But here's, it lists the working group coordinators. So if you wanted to join creative arts, you would message that group, or finance, if numbers are your thing, or media messaging, organizing. So then within these working groups, there are circles. So like I said before, in media messaging, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's, we're on Twitch, Telegram, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram. We're everywhere. Ray can tell you. I don't even know them all. And then once you're in, and a lot of stuff I found out just by reading stuff in the different channels, and announcements is a good place to read stuff and just see what else is going on. And you can see everybody's name here who who works in these things, and everybody in, all the regional coordinators or working group coordinators are so helpful. With the amount of work they do, I'm amazed that I've never met a grumpy coordinator. But so that's a good place. So that's always, so if you're looking for somebody or something, that's the place to go, is to start here. So, and then in the welcome channel, if you click on here, you can see like Philip Doyle did not put his initials there, but Paul Figueroa did. But I wanted to point out to you, like, so somebody posted a message here and 2 people replied to him. So what you want to do is you want to click on the message to reply, and in what they call a thread, and that's in the next page here. So when you click on replies and or his message, and you want to reply in the thread, it shows up over here. And this way, like when Lara responded to Philip, if it wasn't, it could have been 6 messages later if she just posted it in the channel. So it's always best to click on the message and type it in the thread so that the whole thread stays together. And same with the next person who, you can see one was 3 days ago, and then the other one was 1 day ago. So this way the whole message stays together, as opposed to when it gets broken up because other people are typing messages as well, which is fine. But that's what a thread is. And threads that you've responded to, you can find up here as well, at the very top. So that would be that. And then I just wanted to point out again, so at the very top of the screen, it has the white tile for the National Slack working space. So, I think this is, did I go to where this is? So once you get invited over to the state Slack, what you're going to want to do is to click on that tile. Well, after you've accepted, because when you click on that tile, it shows you all the working spaces you've ever signed up for. Okay, so a million years ago, I signed up for the People's I signed up for, what's that, Not Me Us, the Bernie thing. And there was also, I forget what that was back in 2016. I have to delete those. But so these are the working spaces, and you can see that black dot on top of the, I'm pointing with my finger here. I want you to know, at the computer, the black dot means that there are messages that I haven't read yet in that workspace. So because I was at the time, you can see the ring around the state Slack here, that I was working in this space last. So this is telling me there's a message up there. So I might want to go back there and find that message. It might be important to me. And then once you click on the black tile, it opens up the state's Slack working space. And so again, you have the hashtags in front of the open channels, which is start here, welcome, and announcements, which has a lot of what's in the national, some a little different, but not all that's in national. And then there's a general. And then when you can see the little lock in front of these channels, which are you have to be invited into that workspace. So if you're in Pennsylvania and if you've been invited to the Pennsylvania state Slack, you're not going to see New Jersey, you're going to see Pennsylvania listed here with a lock in front of it. And so you can just click on it and you will open up that channel and you'll be able to see the messages inside. And so this is how it looks on my phone. I screenshot this from my phone. This is how the app looks. I don't know how the app looks on a desktop, which is where I started doing the screenshots from. I did it in the web browser by typing Slack. But when you have the app on your phone, you can just hit Slack and it opens up. It'll open up to the last working space you were in, but you just would click the tile at the top and it'll show you all your spaces. And also you'll get a little, if somebody messaged you directly or there's something that you have set the notices to notify you if something's happening, like with the hub coordinator. So the New Jersey hub, I want to see when, somebody types something in there or whatever. I have that set to notify me. So I know to go in and check that. But that's so, and so if I want it, so if I'm in the state and I want to go back to the national, I would just click on the icon on the top, and it's like a back button, which would take me to here. And then I would just click here, which would take me back to national. And that's how you get back and forth. And then, and also your direct messages in both are at the very bottom. And so once you're in and put your state initials on there, and if you're in New Jersey, you can, my name in Slack is Kate Minacchio, Kate with a C. So you can direct message me and say, hey, I'm here. And I can also then invite you into the state group that way. So I hope that was helpful. Let me stop sharing. Anybody left? There are still people here. Yay. Anyways, that's the pretty, and I found most of it just, it took me a few months, but I found my way around, and our regional coordinator, Phil, was very helpful. He's the one who showed me about the different tiles by clicking the tile at the top, you'll get all the other tiles. And once you start working through it, it's pretty easy to get around. You'll see how it makes sense. And then once you're an expert at this, in a couple months, we'll move over to the other site where we'll all learn all over again, but we'll all do it together. Okay. But that's Slack. That's Slack. Well, it took longer than I wanted to, but anyways, any questions? Awesome. We're all experts. Awesome. So if you have signed up in National and haven't been invited to Slack yet, I don't know who's messaging. Let me or Andrea know so that we can get you, we can have National send you a new invite to National. We can't invite you to National, but once you're in National, we can invite you to state and local Slack. And that's it. Yay. Everybody snuck out while I had my screen sharing up. I'm just kidding.
If you have any questions or any troubles with Slack, or from going from national to state, you have our emails, People's Party New Jersey @gmail. I'll throw that in the chat, or if you have any questions or any issues, just feel free to reach out to us, and we'll definitely get you guys connected. This is definitely the best way for us to, as we move forward, keep the communication going, especially between our meetings and everywhere else. It's definitely a great way to isolate, where we want to do our actions. So. Yeah, and that's what we are hoping to do is definitely in the next meeting is to start forming groups, to start taking action and taking suggestions too, because Andrea and I, we're organizers, but we're not dictators. So, why does it keep coming up private? So anyways, it's People's Party New Jersey @gmail. And that's it. That's it. Not it. We're good. I don't know. KP, I kept messaging you. I don't know why privately and had to retype it, but we're good, everybody? Ray, thanks so much for your presentation and your suggestions, and I'm real excited for that. I'm going to post that in the New Jersey Hub too. We have a couple people interested here and a couple people from last time. I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yay. But and actually, I did an interview with Revolution Radio that I would like for you to post on the YouTube channel too. Woo. Anyways, Emma did the editing for. Anyways, are we all good, everybody? I thank you all for being here. We're probably going to start bi-weekly meeting.
Thanks so much. It was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for coming again. I hope you get your heat and hot water again soon.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay. Good to see everybody. Have a good night. Oh wait. Maria. Yes, we have. I'll message you the YouTube for People's Party New Jersey. Okay. Okay. Yay.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thanks all.
Thanks. Thank you, Ray. Thanks. Bye-bye.
There I can leave.
All right, maybe we'll do a, oh. Andrea, could you stop the recording?
I know. I gotta message Herb real quick and tell him to turn it off. Just give me 1 minute, okay?
Sure.
All right. I messaged him. I'm just waiting to hear back.
You know, it looks like Missy dropped off. Missy was the one that actually asked to stick around afterwards to do the Slack setup. I don't know if anyone else here needs that. Let me know right now. Otherwise, I guess I could go.
Okay. Yeah, I just see the blank things. I think we're good. But I can get you Missy's contact information if you need it.
Yes, do that. I'm happy to be the one to reach out to anyone that wants to help with this circle.
Yeah, so I definitely. I'll get her email and stuff, and I'll get that sent out to you. Because did she say she was on Slack already?
No, she said she was trying to get on. That was
And
why
she
we
was
were
gonna
going to
get
hang
on.
out a little bit afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I'll get her email. I'll email her as well. Get her signed up on Slack, and that way you guys can also message each other about so the communication stuff. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help.
Andrea, it was a pleasure, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.